this particular module, I wish to discuss about the major gaseous pollutants, certain general regulatory actions for its control, and general techniques that are adopted in order to establish the control on gaseous pollutants. Here, as you learn the content, you will be able to state major gaseous pollutants, certain common regulatory actions, and general control techniques. The fossil fuels constitute about 85% of world energy resources. During its combustion, many harmful elements as well as gases are emitted from various sources, such as, say, vehicles, furnaces, stoves, and even in electrical power plants. The major gaseous pollutants that are regulated or are precursors of regulated pollutants are sulfur dioxide. Mainly, we can think of the various sources in the form of industry, thermal power plants, as well as various transport sectors. The carbon monoxide, which is produced because of the incomplete combustion of carbon containing fuels, which could be gasoline, natural gas, oil, coal, and wood like thing. So here, in addition to industry, even various vehicles and engines which involve combustion like operation would come in the picture. This ozone is a secondary pollutant which is formed during the atmospheric photochemical reactions, which involves the oxides of the nitrogen and reactive hydrocarbons which are emitted from the automobiles. Next is nitrogen oxides, which results from the catalytic reaction of the heat with atmospheric nitrogen and oxygen in the combustion process. Main sources can be listed to be automobiles and power plants. The next category can be considered to be volatile organic compounds, which are compounds that have high vapor pressure and low water solubility. So the various industry that are manufacturing paints, solvents, wood preservatives, air fresheners can be considered under the list of the sources. Ammonia is a colorless gas with a pungent smell. So, sources such as fertilizers or fertilizer manufacturing industry, the waste disposal centers, and certain industrial processes can be considered as major sources as far as ammonia is concerned. In the initial discussions itself, when we discussed about the air pollutants and when we classified the various pollutants, already we have discussed the associated effects. However, as this is very introductory session, you must revise the list of the pollutants as well as the various sources causing the generation of such pollutants and also the associated effects. So we can consider the list of the pollutants as presented in this particular table. We can also consider their emission in the natural form as well as anthropogenic form. As you see here, certain pollutants could be having anthropogenic origin and their generation could be quite high as compared to their natural counterparts. Also, the polluted air concentrations could be quite high as compared to their natural background concentrations. It is also necessary to take into account that some of the pollutants could be having very small residence time, such as less than 1 day, and some of the pollutants could be remaining in the atmosphere over the years. So this consideration is important in order to understand the associated impacts over that particular period and hence need of designing the mitigation measures. It is needless to discuss that the pollutants which are having small residence time, if are not having very harmful impact, need not be bothered about. However, the pollutant which could be having the serious impact and which is long lasting need to be considered while designing the emission norms as well as various mitigation measures. Already we have discussed about the regulatory actions or certain common considerations as we discussed about the particulate pollutant control. Broadly, the pollutant control can be established through various regulatory actions like, say, prevention. That is, we can establish the control on the quality of the fuel so that it won't generate the pollutant. We can substitute the fuel. So, say for example, instead of making use of coal, we can switch over to some, say, gas-like means. We can modify the process. The plants could be maintained well in order to avoid the leakages. Certain pollutants which may be having their resource value, hence they could be concentrated together by making use of certain machinery and As they are concentrated, they can be recovered from a particular source. Also, oxidation technique can be employed in order to establish the control. So some regulatory actions can be considered in terms of these: switching to clean fuel, switching to clean technology, enhancing the dispersion, that is by providing the tall stacks so that the emission won't reach in the immediate vicinity, it will be dispersed with the wind at the larger distances over the wider areas. Hence, it won't cause much of the effect on the people, property, as well as the plants nearby. Also, the emission norms, legislative provisions, strict adherence to the practices would help to establish the control on the gaseous pollutants. Instead of relying on small power generation units, if centralized large power plants are constructed, it would be easier to establish the proper control while generating the power, and hence the control on gaseous pollutants. Technically, we can make use of various techniques. So the techniques could be adsorption, absorption, condensation, and incineration. One can make use of these techniques in combination in order to establish the better control. Also, all the techniques may not be suitable under all the circumstances. It may depend on the physical as well as chemical property of the pollutants as well as the exhaust stream. Sometimes certain availability of space, involved cost, and the kind of the control that you wish to establish could also be some of the factors which needs attention while selecting these particular techniques. Let's get acquainted with the technique or their basic definitions. So adsorption is the phenomenon by which the molecules of the fluid adhere to the surface of the solid. Here, the material being adsorbed is called as adsorbate, whereas the material which causes this adsorption is called as adsorbate. This process is very helpful for selective capture of adsorbate even with smaller concentrations. This adsorption can occur in specific manner. It can be used effectively to separate gases from gases, solids from liquid, ions from liquid, as well as dissolved gases from liquid. The second technique is absorption. This is mass transfer operation in which the gas is dissolved in a liquid. As a process, the contaminant contacts the liquid and it diffuses from its gas phase into the liquid phase. Mostly, the liquid that is commonly used is water. In order to enhance the removal efficiency, certain reagents can be added to this absorbing water. The appliances devices in the form of gas absorbers or wet scrubbers are designed to provide good mixing of the gas as well as the liquid phases. The devices used for gas absorption are same as those that we also discussed about in the form of particulate emission scrubbing, wherein we discussed about the park towers, plate towers, spray columns, venturi scrubbers, and such thing. So, as the definition goes, for adsorption, molecules adhere to the surface of the phase under consideration. Whereas, as far as absorption is concerned, these molecules of the gas are drawn into the bulk of the phase. One more technique is condensation. So this condensation is very common phenomena which you have been observing since your school days. It can be defined as a process in which the volatile gases are removed from the contaminant stream and changed into the liquid. So the vapors which are coming out of any hot product, as they come in contact with certain cold body, the vapor is condensed. So this thing you have seen over many cases. So this condensation is achieved by reducing the temperature of the vapor mixture until the partial pressure of the condensation component equals its vapor pressure. The condensers are normally used in combination with other primary control devices. Also, they can be located upstream of the major devices such as incinerator, adsorber, or also this absorber. Out of the list that we proposed, incineration, also called as combustion, is the last technique. This technique is defined as rapid high temperature gas phase oxidation. In the simple terms, the contaminant which is present in the gas stream is simply burned with the air. So these devices can be categorized as flares, thermal incinerators, or catalytic incinerators. It is used to control the emissions of organic compounds from various process industries. The process as such refers to the rapid oxidation of the substance through the combination of the oxygen with combustible material in the presence of the heat. And when this combustion is complete, the gas stream is transformed into the carbon dioxide and water vapor. So, thanks for your attention. This particular presentation was simply meant for giving you introduction to the topic. As we move ahead, we will discuss about each of the techniques as well as the associated devices, its design in the coming presentations. So the next presentation is use of adsorption technique for the control of gaseous pollutants. So by till then, I wish you very happy learning. Thank you.